Alrighty, well, it's 1:15. It's when we said we're going to kick off the meeting. I'm sure further people will be joining as we progress, but to everyone on the call, welcome to a webinar around how AI is changing consulting. It will be the next 45 minutes between Michael and myself. We're discussing 3 different topics. For any questions, maybe we can answer them in the end. And without further ado, Michael, I hand over to you.
Yes, thank you so much, Anita. Welcome, everyone. Let me just get my slides right from the beginning. To this webinar about AI is changing consulting. As Anita just mentioned, we're going to talk about 3 relevant topics today and give you some insights about how you can accelerate time to value for your business, whether you're a consulting business, whether you're selling products, or advising in any other way. AI can augment what we currently do to do it faster and maybe even better. And it changes the way that we basically operate. And we have been doing this for the last couple of years now, and have some new tools that we can share with you as well, that you also can take advantage of in your business. But before we go into that, I will let Anita present herself from Kite Consulting, who I have been working side by side with, and I've been observing for the last 4 years, been very successful selling and implementing Oracle technology and helping clients achieve better outcomes across customer experience, employee experience, and suppliers. But over to you, Anita. You know your business better than anyone else.
Thank you, Michael, for the warm intro. So a lot of the people here on the call actually know me, which is great to see some familiar names. But I've worked my whole career in consulting leadership roles, from project management to practice management to APEC head of consulting to ANZ-wide consulting leader at Oracle. 5 years ago, I kicked off my own business called Kite Consulting. We're about 50 people big nowadays, with offices across Australia and projects across Australia. Some of the recent projects include Latitude Bank, Gippsland Water, Tabcorp, which was kicked off a project with Royal Flying Doctor Service in Adelaide a few weeks ago. So we span cross industries and cross very well-known customer brands. I think the key thing which sets us apart as a business is the 100% referenceability. So in principle, we don't walk away until we get it right. And within the time of AI, of course, we also had to very critically think about what does this mean for Kite in the time of AI, and how do we apply AI to make sure we can ensure consistency in our methodology, consistency in our approach, improving speed to market, and keep driving really high value outcomes for our customers.
Excellent.
Over to you, Michael.
Thank you so much. 100% referenceability, that's quite an accomplishment, huh? I look forward to hearing more about your methodology to achieve that, because I guess that's what everybody wants to achieve. Now, my name is Michael Schillhardt. Also have a background at Oracle, been 3 decades in sales. I led the value selling program and the AI services program at Oracle, and helped implement the Challenger sales methodology, which we're going to talk a little bit about today. And my business, Sales Innovator, offers a methodology in sales to identify growth opportunities for your clients that is enabled by the products and services you sell. And when we can do that, we can shift the conversation and the focus from competing on price to deliver more value and differentiation. And I just wrote a book about that called The Sales Innovators, which we're going to elaborate a little bit upon later through an automated tool that can be made available for you. But let's get started. So society has been evolving for the last couple of decades to do more with less. And the arrival of AI augments that further. Today, we're basically asked to do even more with less time. And this comes out in ways that customers expect us to engage. They expect us to know their business before we walk into a meeting with them, before they will select us as a potential partner. In terms of how we compete against each other, most businesses do not look that different. Whether we are offering services or products, competitors, they replicate each other. So if you're new with a new feature or something like that, then it won't be long until your competitors are offering exactly the same. And this leads to often that how we differentiate is on price. And that's not good for our business because it, of course, affects the margins. So what can we do about that? Because it's something we're going to talk about. The other part of sales is there's less time to respond to tenders. So Anita is going to cover that with some real examples from Kite Consulting, where less time is offered to basically be able to engage with the client and then respond to tenders. So how can we assist doing that faster with AI is what we're going to talk about as well. So today's topics focus on differentiating selling and doing that faster with AI, research agents that can develop tailored sales propositions. We're going to talk about the faster turnaround time for tenders. And then we're going to talk about as well how we can ensure that our quality standards are met when we are delivering services to customers, all powered by AI. So in terms of being able to differentiate our selling, when we look across industries today, most organizations basically are offering what can be considered as commodities. And when we ask customers about why do they choose us or a different company, it often comes down to the investment we have made in getting to know the business. So this means that we need to do a lot of research to be able to tailor our products and our services and our offering to meet the client exactly where they are. And this can be done by developing what we know as a point of view. So a point of view is a differentiated sales proposition that acts as a vision on behalf of the client. And typically this is about how we can enable the client growing their business enabled by the products and services we sell. About 14 years ago, there was a significant research study done across 6,000 sales professionals in the US. It was formed as the methodology known as the Challenger Sales Methodology. And it showed, after identifying 5 different archetypes of sales professionals, relationship builders, hard workers, problem solvers, and then the challenger, that the challenger is 54% better at selling more, especially in complex deals. But what it does is that it takes a lot of time to be able to research customers before we walk into a meeting, and we don't always have the time to do that. Now, most of us know very well that we need to understand and prepare before we meet our clients. But the reality is this, that most customers do not experience that we're able to do that. And the reason is that we don't have time to be able to invest that preparation for every single client meeting. Now, what we then can do now is have AI to help us with this. And the recent book that I launched called The Sales Innovators, which is an expanded version of the Challenger Sales Methodology, is turned into an AI agent that does the research for you. And you can scan the QR code that's up here. And if you have a subscription with ChatGPT, you can use it there for free. It's going to be developed as a more high quality product as such, but for now it's available on ChatGPT. And what it basically does is that you provide your prospect's website address, your own company's website address, and define what you are trying to achieve as an objective with the customer, whether that's improving their customer experience, enabling self-service capabilities, or it could be improving efficiency towards suppliers and reducing errors. Whatever the problem statement is, the research agent will come up with a tailored point of view, a tailored sales proposition for your business in just 5 to 10 minutes. So what it does is that it analyzes the prospect's website, their annual reports, the industry is in, the competition, trends that are happening, customer reviews, and so forth, and then ties that back into the methodology that is in my book, and then comes out with a strategy report that basically is delivered either as an interactive HTML document or as a PowerPoint presentation. So this is a mock-up of it as such. So basically, it will propose a strategy that can lead to scalable growth for your prospect by suggesting ideas to leverage your products and services to solve immediate problems and then achieve the goals or objectives that's defined in your problem statement. So after doing all this research, which can take 2 to 3 weeks for a person to do if you do it on your own, I used to do it with Oracle, and we only could do this for the most strategic accounts, then this will help you basically do the same effort, but in much less time. So it will propose, for instance, a SWOT analysis for the customer, define a future journey designed for customer engagement, leveraging partners in your ecosystem, which is known as open innovation, potentially come up with ideas for how this business can leverage a platform thinking approach where you have an ecosystem that is contributing to your products and services and enhancing your value proposition, and all ultimately leading to how it can grow with the products and services you're offering. And that becomes your challenger statement, that unique selling proposition that ties in all your references, your history, your services, and why you are a better fit than others, and then propose an engagement plan for the next 6 months, 2 years, 3 years, and so forth. And everything that is used on the basis of this research is sourced, so you can tie back to it. And then the main part of your work becomes reviewing and validating what it has researched is correct. And as an outcome for that, you can have discovery questions defined, a deck defined to go in and present, and which you of course can modify. But it's simply a way to accelerate the time to value when we want to research clients and be able to tailor our products in a positioning strategy that really ties back to their current situation in a much faster way. So if we look at the normal scenario where we just prepare, let's say, 10 minutes to an hour studying websites and tailoring our products to this, and we come in and we look like any other potential partner would, this research agent allows you to do an in-depth research and really understand the current situation based on all data that's available. And if we can do this, our research shows that we can really increase the conversion rate from just interest to order because we are able to tailor it directly to where the client's position is. So that's an opportunity for you to try out. And you can just scan the QR code and save that here and be able to leverage the tool. When you do it, once it has generated the HTML code as a final result, you need to click the next button for the report to show. So just try that. So in short, what we can leverage AI for here is really the time to value when we want to differentiate whatever products and services we are selling by allowing AI to do the research for us. And whatever framework we may have in our business can be turned in to an AI augmented, you could say, process that does the work for us that otherwise we human beings would do just much slower. So that was the first part I wanted to cover. And with this, I want to hand it over to Anita to talk more about how AI is helping her to respond to tenders much faster. So over to you, Anita.
Thank you, Michael. And we're using this example tender process generation because it's like a process most people understand. And I know in the audience there is people who are from consulting backgrounds, but also from different industries as well. How to respond to a complex tender from 25 days in 5 days. And that photo is me when I realized the industry is changing so fast. As a consultancy, we need to change how we operate in order to put our best foot forward in very short, aggressive timeframes. So what this means in more context, next slide, please. Really, the 5-day window is now the new standard. So as a consultancy, we respond to a lot of tenders, of course, which sometimes are simple, smaller tenders, but in some cases, in most cases, it's actually quite big sort of technical solution architecture, requirements. The requirements lists are hundreds of lines long. There's existing technology we got to deal with. We've got to think about industry blueprints and best standards. We've got to work with Oracle to define which products are the right ones to use. So to cut that period from a typical 25-day turnaround time to 5 days is something which is really challenging if you don't have the right tool, the right methodology, and the right framework in place to move through this quickly. And this is a real example. So we're seeing it already. In fact, when as a tenderer, you call the consultant or write the procurement in an email, can you please extend the timeline? They actually came back saying no, because they want to sift through consultancies who don't work with AI, because that will tell them straight away of how sophisticated an organization is working to turn around things fast. So we've seen this now across multiple organizations. It's becoming a real topic and a real pressure point for consultancies. Next slide, please. So assuming the 5-day hasn't sunk through everywhere yet, and some organizations still give, tenderers the 25 days, that's great, pressure's off, but there's still a lot of other pressure points. An organization needs to consider, for example, billable lost hours. The time to value is still very long. Quality may be inconsistent because people do the old way of working and just pulling stuff out of where we have done things in previous responses. And also, if I take 25 days to focus on a tender, what are all the other things I have missed as an organization to respond to in the meantime? So with that, I wanted to introduce the tender agents. So in our case, this is actually many, which really allow us to move from a longer period of time to a very short period of time with the best possible response and outcome, what we can put forward as an organization. And estimated, our time to produce complex responses reduced by about 85%. So I want to talk you through this process a little bit to just explain the concept of AI solution architecture behind it. So me being a technologist and a technology consulting leader, it's great that we're using AI, but it always boils down to the so what question. What's the underlying solution architecture of how we're using AI at Kite? What's the data structure? What's the governance model? How are we designing this? So we're not looking at individual chatbots where I think everyone is now sophisticated enough that you open your chatbot, you feed it the documentation, and it kind of helps co-create it, or you may even point it to a SharePoint folder where it looks up previous responses. But in our world, this is now maturing quite quickly around process execution. And what you see here is the concept of the Kite tender response agent. So the overlying green bar is really the executional agent, which fires all the agents underneath. So if I go to the left, for example, it's like the tender intake and clarify questions agent. That's one agent, uploaded the document. It's pre-designed with all the typical things we typically would ask to see whether we either want to qualify in or not, right? And then it goes further down to identify the bill of materials, right? What products are the right products? Are we compliant based on our insurance levels and all the other requirements, policies, and what other things would we have? What are the no-go or go decisions we need to ask ourselves to really lean in and say, okay, well, yes, we want to go for this, let's go. The key thing I want to call out here too, you may have all AI agents in the world, but we still find that human interaction and human debate and human validation is absolutely critical, specifically if you're looking into larger sort of end-to-end responses. So the second step, and I'm not going to throw every single bullet point because this is conceptual, to make sure the audience understands that, from an AI maturity point of view, it's the moving on from individual chats to actually one AI agent, which focuses on a very bespoke, narrow problem, is perfectly trained, knows exactly where to go for information, and once that AI agent is done with their task, they pass on the outcome to the next AI agent. So in the second group there with design and build, you again see, right, we have 3 steps where AI agents do their work, and then eventually it stops for human debate and validation. And the human debate and validation in this case comes in around, well, what does the solution architecture look like? What's, based on our experience and the experts in the room, what's a transformation schedule look like? I mean, AI may have a point of view, but I personally think it still cannot replace the human consideration and the human debate of what we know actually works out on the field. So once we feed it that, okay, let's go in a room, let's challenge everything we know, let's agree of what we think the best approach is, and we take that and feed it back into the AI to go through then all the subsequent steps. And other things like, further down the list, you have the CV agent. At Kite, for example, I mean, I have a portfolio of consultants at the moment, about 50 or so. Each consultant has 20 years of experience and has done whole different things of projects in their lifetime. So what we do for specific tenders or specific customers or any customer really, we only take the relevant parts out of a CV. So we have the CV agent where I'm like, dear CV agent, grab the CV of X, Y, and Z and this and that person, focus on one-page responses only, make it relevant to this tender, and off we go. Same with the references agent, same with the pricing agent, right? So it's like those kind of components where you have one agent honing in a very specific task, and that agent knows exactly what you do because you trained it and improved it, and once it's done it sort of passes it on to the next step. The challenge agent, number 14, has the job to review where everything's at and challenges, right? Apply the critical thinking. Why would we not be successful? Poke holes in whatever we have come up to this point in time, which then feeds again into the human review debate, maybe fixing or improving some of the areas the challenge agent has come up to then go to the third step, the refine and finalize step. There, for example, in Kite, we have the legal agent. I've trained my legal agent. Saves me the lawyer's fee at the moment, unless it becomes really hairy. But the legal agent is trained to exactly our terms and conditions we generically would agree to or would not agree to, or maybe it's negotiable. So the legal agent reviews all the MSAs and draft statement of works for bigger customers can be 150 pages long. Takes me 2 to 3 hours typically to review something like this in detail. Well, the legal agent takes 3 minutes and just comes up with the summary table of what it recommends based on the terms and conditions I've already trained it. And then in the end, we have a Kite brand voice. We want to be known for certain things, and we don't want to say certain things because it doesn't emphasize what we stand for. So after all the writing is done and humans kind of went in and corrected things, I get the brand voice to write it in our tone and voice. The third step then is the formatting, right? It looks absolutely perfectly fine based on how we want it to make it look. And the fourth agent, the final review and check agent, compares our response to make sure we haven't missed anything based on the original tender documents. Yeah, so in a nutshell, that's how we run it through, and it boils down to, in your industry, whether it's consulting or any other industry as well, pick a process step, right? Everyone has a process step, and it's the typical level 1, level 2, level 3 processes. Start with your level 1 and break it down into your level 2 process steps, and maybe even level 3 process steps. And then based on those levels, where can you create your AI agents, which are there to execute one single task before they pass it on to the next process step? And what it allows you to do is basically work AI really efficiently, really controlled, trained with your minimum human inputs. Because if you don't do that and just open a chatbot where you feed it up, you forever. Someone is on not mute. Hang on. It's Elliot just muted. All good. If you don't do that, right, you forever need to say, oh no, you got to change the CV, and actually the CV is too long, or it doesn't have enough detail, or add location, or I want an executive summary, or make it in bullet points, or whatever the feedback is, right? It just minimizes the training and the feedback you give it on a continuous time, right? So if you break it down into smaller chunks, it makes it the whole process just goes much faster. So with that, I'd like to move on to the next slide, please.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the summary to what I've just said. So if you start looking at AI from a process execution point of view, it really enables you to move things faster, much more controlled. And for us in consulting, I actually don't want my consultants to run off and ask ChatGPT, can you give me a maturity methodology or maturity analysis methodology? I want them to use our methodology, right? I mean, I have years of experience of leading consulting teams. I know what good looks like. I want anyone in our team to work towards those standards and not just plug something random down from AI, which is the other risk of AI creeping in across industries, not only consulting, but any industry, of people doing things. But you as leader, you're being held accountable for the quality and the methodologies used for the output produced, right? Even if you say, oh, we want a human to review it, but if my consultant has never done, let's say, a technology health check and doesn't know the 10 steps we use for that, and what a leader will be looking for, they may think what I produce is perfectly fine. If I look at it, I said, no, that's not up to our standards, right? So it's, as a leader, it's my responsibility to make sure that we're using an AI framework which plugs into our way of doing things and delivers work to our framework. So which then, opens up the wider question, right? How do you scale AI for business? So now we moved from individual chats to, we understand, okay, well, there's process execution with a whole bunch of sub-processes. That's one thing. And then ideally, once you have figured this out, right, you then can connect the process steps to one to the other. Coming back, for example, to the tender agent, I mean, one of the last steps, the next step could be for the AI agent to actually make a record in my CRM system to record what we've just responded to as a deal opportunity, and then triggers off action items for a salesperson to follow up and, move it through the pipeline. So it's from higher process steps to then connected process steps. But the other thing also, we zoom back out a little bit again. All of this is only possible if we think this through like a technology piece with a technology solution architecture and governance. So this is the first point. What's the AI structure in your business? How do you move from co-pilot of help me with this Excel formula, or help me document my Word document, or, give me suggested email prompts, to zooming out, right? What are the core business processes in your organization? How can you break this down into lower level process steps for AI to really help orchestrate and execute some of this? The other thing here on the right, the human thought leadership is absolutely critical important, right? It's like any other technology transformation. Pardon the French, but shit data in, shit quality output on the other end, right? AI, is somewhat maybe muffling that because it can, tap into global knowledge. But in a nutshell, your output is only as good as the instructions you give it and the methodologies you feed it. So the human thought leadership in this is more critical than ever. And then, the thing here on the bottom left, organizational rollout and training. AI is, while very sophisticated, another technology rollout. And years and years after working in technology implementations, how, the successful adoption of it from an organizational point of view boils down on how you roll it out in your organization. What's the team training and enablement? What are the rules of when and how people are going to use it? And how well do they know how to use it? I give an example here, Kite, right? We're building this Kite AI tool, tender example, one example, and we're doing a whole bunch of other things. My team consists of technology consultants, which are all amazing, right? They are much smarter than I am. But boiling it down to AI adoption and use cases, right? I've been fascinated to see that even very technical people have different understanding or lack of understanding around the use cases of what AI can actually do for them. So driving this again up on an organizational level to say, well, these are the processes. How do you do it? That's what we expect you to do it. And doing that thought leadership and I guess organizational change management is critical. And even more critical to that is consumption control. Why organizations don't feel it quite yet, the token usage, the price attached to token usage is going to be real in the very near future. So it's not only anymore how you structure your processes and how you break it down, but how do you work AI smartly? So not with every single question it searches all your SharePoint folders and all your 1,000 documents you have with all the images and fancy looking things. Where do you use markdown files? Where do you delete your 20 versions of methodologies to delete the latest one? And where do you host your AI? See, some of those practical questions are becoming really important in order to make sure your consumption and your price is not outperforming the value it actually creates. And of course, the ethical balance, right? We see a lot of redundancies across, banks, technology companies, and there's always, oh yeah, AI is going to do our job. But we also see there's redundancies to free up budget for companies to invest in AI. And I'm having a lot of debates around the ethical dilemma around AI at the moment. It's an interesting one. So if you are a technology leader in a large organization, I think that messaging is also really important, and that decision making around, well, how do we free up budget to invest in that AI? And is it really the human cost, or do we actually need the human thought leadership in order to train the AI? And, having here not only technology leaders on the call, but also some of our customers, I guess, what do you expect when you engage a consultancy, right? Whether it's a Kite or KPMG or Deloitte or Oracle Consulting, everyone is using AI. But what does this mean for you of picking a consultancy and what to expect as a result of it? So in a nutshell, if we move to the next slide, right, definitely faster time to value. If someone takes 3 days to pull a document, it's too long. It's very important to understand the proven frameworks and methodology a consultancy is using. I mean, in technology implementation, it's quite stock standard, to be honest. But if you move more into the strategy, business process analysis, maturity assessments, change management, and those topics, what is the business's, your consulting partners' frameworks? It's very easy to pull things off the internet or get AI to figure it out, and the consultants actually not knowing how to do it properly. Yeah, so that's a call out. The other thing, nothing gets missed. I mean, we're using AI note takers nowadays in every single meeting. I did an executive engagement to review technology stack of a large organization just before Christmas, where we had about 100 stakeholder interviews. It's impossible to remember every single thing. And even if you are there writing things down, you still may miss things. So we had AI note takers in every single meeting. We consolidated it all. And the good thing is, at the end, you can ask then your AI bots the questions because nothing got missed in any of those conversations. And you can multiply that across multiple consultants. The other thing, what we're using it for is risk and issue management. So we have a specific risk and issue management bot where we say, okay, fire off your, come back with what you think the red flags are. And it typically comes up with 2 or 3 things we wouldn't have thought of or we would have overseen. So it's more robust, right? If you use AI as your co-worker, is less likelihood that you actually miss things. Of course, the less time and money is spent on low-value tasks like documentation, reports, training materials, right? We have, for example, things like your solution design document, right? We have all the details, we feed it the information, it follows all our templates, our approach, done, right? So things which would previously take days are consolidated within a couple of hours. The other thing what we've done is we let AI search some of our customers' instances, and it actually came back with, in one case, with over 20 cybersecurity risks and red flags. So we were absolutely amazed that no one has picked this up in something like 5 years, that there's some real red flags out there. It allowed us to come back to the customer and say, we've identified all of this. How do you want to address them? We think you should address them sooner than later. So it's also, AI helps not only move fast, proven, but it also allows you to miss less because it's just what happens when human works together. And the other thing, what we do, like we have a different AI tool where we move deployments between environments, which again, working in customers' technology environments, that just helps us save time. And if anyone is wondering, do Kite customers know that Kite is using AI everywhere? Yes, we've updated our master services agreements and statement of works, so we don't use it until it's legally approved by the customer. It's another thing I think companies need to think about. And, after all of that, after AI is running our world, Michael, next slide, please. Hopefully we finally have some time to relax and we can smell the flowers. And at that point, I wanted to open up for some Q&A.
Yeah. Yeah, so before we do that, so for those that want to try this point of view generator that I spoke about earlier, if you want to understand the framework that lies behind that, then you can check this new version of the book out. But let's go over to some questions and hopefully be able to come up with some answers. So if you want to unmute yourself, you're more than welcome to do so. So we've covered 3 topics for accelerating value: differentiate sales proposition and do it much faster, shorter tender response times, and then finally to ensure quality standards in service delivery with the different agents. Now, do any of you have any questions?
In the absence of a question, I might say it does take time to implement AI properly in organizations. When we kicked off this journey with Kite, I thought, yeah, this is going to be a weekend project, but that was many, 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 many weekends ago now. And I see now AI as a maturity journey where everyone's learning. I think the key thing is to, have a framework in mind, have a structure in mind, and start plugging away. And we here at Kite, it's also this fine balance between letting people loose on AI and have everyone build their own AI agents to actually bringing it together again underneath this governance framework, right? So if you think back at the, I guess the tender agent process, like where does an AI agent fit into the execution process? Where are the handover points? Where's the process? Because by the time you're building 20 AI agents, some work behind it. It's like...
But definitely worth experimenting with. So
it's a game changer, total game changer for us for sure. And it's fun also. It's fun also. What the other thing what we see creeping in is people becoming so quickly used to AI that there's a real, I wouldn't say decision fatigue, but almost laziness creeping in. Like the other day, I was almost coming up to one of my consultants, like, ditch all the fancy PowerPoints, put it down on a pen and paper, and unless we can work it out there, don't even use AI first, right? So I think that human thought leadership is still critical in quite a lot of points.
Yeah.
We have a question. How do you tend to handle organizational context and memory? Yeah, so that's a really interesting one. So we kicked off a different SharePoint folder for the Kite AI where we have, I guess, the repository of our knowledge is there. It's all in markdown files to minimize token usage and burn. So that's, I guess, the core, the fundamental data source of the Kite AI tool. On top of them, you have the AI agents. For example, the solution document creation agent, the CV agent, the legal agent. You then can pull those agents together in projects, right? So for example, we kick off a new customer engagement. We start an AI project for the customer, which we point to the data. We plug in the right agents who help us with the execution, and within the project, that memory is then managed within the project from AI. So any chats, any conversation, multiple consultants can work on that one project. We also have it plugged into our MS Teams channels, into email if you want to, into our project management tool. It's integrated with an API integration. So we've really been looking at, exactly to the point, how do you handle the context also across multiple systems? So in my mind, again, it boils down to, how's your organization set up now? What are the core processes, the core data sources, and how do you connect it? Another good question, what about accuracy and hallucination? Can we trust AI? Okay, so the hallucinations are being reduced if you break down your process steps in small process steps and you give it very clear instructions, right? If I have an AI agent, for example, the CV agent, and it comes up with random, Michael is certified in, I don't know, Oracle data integration, but he isn't, right? I need to go back to that skill and say, do not hallucinate, only pull information you find in this spreadsheet, only use this one folder for input file, right? So I need to go back and keep training that agent and updating the instructions until we get it right. Which tool do you use? Okay, so we have been through a whole range of different things. The Kite AI is built on Anthropic Claude AI, where we have an organizational license, which means organizational license is not used for public learning, but it stays private across the Kite organization. But I think for us, the key thing is also you can plug in to other systems. So for example, it plugs into our CRM system. It plugs into our managed services system. It plugs into our project management system, which is Soho Desk and Soho Service. Our CRM system is HubSpot. It plugs into my Outlook, to my emails, to our MS Teams chats. So I think in terms of what tool you use, it's a bit of research. What tools are you using already? And what solution plugs best into that end-to-end process journey, and what are your use cases? So to be honest, we did take, I'd say, 3 or 4 months to decide what we want to use and how we're going to use it.
I think it's worth mentioning that, in my view as well, when you look across the different large language models that exist today, Anthropic really stands out with their Claude in terms of the accuracy and also quality of responses, opposed to, for instance, ChatGPT and Gemini as well. So they are kind of like leading the way at the moment, but every 3 months, new models come out with upgrades, and obviously they're competing. But at this point in time, I think that from my viewpoint, the Claude engine is more sophisticated and give more higher quality responses.
And sorry, I just see the second part of the question. I didn't scroll down fast enough to see which tool do you use to manage the MD files, which I'm assuming are the Markdown files. We use Claude for that. So we set up a different SharePoint folder with all the Markdown files. We decided all the things we can ditch and we need to use. And we've just been creating Markdown files with Claude.
Very good. So we have 2 minutes left. Any other questions? Otherwise, we can give you a minute and a half back. Let's see.
So I also would like to say, Kite, underneath the hood, we are a certified Anthropic partner as well. And that's more like a hobby to learn more around how we need to do things ourselves. So if anyone does have any further questions or wants to work with us on rolling this out in your business, just get in touch. At the moment, it's more a necessary hobby to make sure we as Kite are as competitive as we can be and as good as we can be, because that's what we stand for. But yeah, if you want any help to do the same with your business, just reach out. We're quite passionate about this topic, as you can see.
Excellent, Anita.
Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, Michael.
Yeah, thanks, everyone. No more questions. Well, looking forward to be speaking with you in the future then. Please reach out if you have any questions related to the topics today, and looking forward to seeing you at the next session. Thank you so much. Have a good day. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.